of 9/11, 22 years after the deadliest terror attacks on U.S. soil, relatives read aloud the names of nearly 3,000 people who were killed in the Al-Qaeda attacks. Commemorations were held at the sites of the attack at New York's World Trade Center, the Pentagon in Virginia, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where a plane crashed into a field after passengers overpowered the hijackers. Vice President Kamala Harris joined victims' families at the 9/11 Memorial in New York, where the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center fell. According to a new report released by the Government Accountability Office this week, the roughly 450 miles of wall that went up during the Trump administration, remember that was the border wall that he made the centerpiece of his 2016 campaign, caused the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. And to this day, that wall, which Trump continues to lie about, harmed everything from water to endangered species to Native American cultural sites. Monument Hill, for example, a memorial in Arizona used for religious ceremonies that remains important to a number of indigenous communities, was irreparably damaged when contractors used explosives to clear the way for expanding an existing patrol road. California Governor Gavin Newsom said he is not going to pick Congresswoman Barbara Lee for Senate, and that's assuming that there is a resignation by Dianne Feinstein. The California governor argued it would be unfair to the other candidates running if he selected Representative Barbara Lee to serve in the U.S. Senate. Now, Barbara Lee is trailing by double digits her opponents, Congress members Adam Schiff and Katie Porter. However, Newsom said he was still committed to appointing an African-American woman if Dianne Feinstein decides to leave her seat before her term is up next year. The Food and Drug Administration approved a new round of COVID boosters today that will arrive alongside the seasonal flu vaccine and shots to protect infants and other adults from RSV, a potentially lethal respiratory virus. The Centers for Disease Control is expected to follow up tomorrow with an advisory meeting to discuss who should get the new shots by Pfizer and Moderna. And Democrats on the House Oversight Committee are preparing for an active defense of President Joe Biden as the Republican counterparts continue to aggressively pursue evidence to support a potential impeachment inquiry. House Republicans led by Speaker Kevin McCarthy continue to signal their belief that the investigations from the House Oversight, Ways and Means, and Judiciary Committees have collected enough information to launch a formal impeachment inquiry. Democrats are ready to counter that narrative with a vigorous response operation that has been underway for several months. Well, Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump are getting ready for a fight at California's GOP convention. Both sides have signaled they're willing to battle over the state's new rule for allocating delegates. Both sides are counting on California Republican voters to put them over the top and to give them the number of delegates they need to become the next nominee for president. Well, Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, is conjuring his most foreboding vision yet of a possible second term, telling supporters in language resonant of the run-up to the January 6th mob attack on the U.S. Capitol that they need to, quote, fight like hell, quote, or they, this is his supporters, will lose their country. The rhetorical escalation from the 4 times indicted ex-president came at a rally in South Dakota on Friday night, where he accused his possible 2024 opponent, President Joe Biden, of ordering his indictment on 91 charges across 4 criminal cases as a form of election interference. That news and more. You are watching and listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I am your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by 2 returning and brilliant contributors. Chris Scott, he is the co-founder and president of Advance the Electorate PAC, and Sharon Reed, a TV host and commentator. Always glad to have both of them joining me. And in hour 2, that's the hour where we go deep and we dig behind the headlines on some of the biggest stories of the day, stories that make big headlines and big impact. And today, since this is the day where the entire country is commemorating 9/11, we are going to do a whole hour, an hour or two on 9/11. Many of you will remember when the first plane and then another collided with the Twin Towers in Lower Manhattan in September of 2001. It opened a wound so unfathomable in its horror that it seemed necessary to tell a new kind of story, one that helped make sense of the tragedy, even as it distorted it. And as 9/11 was happening, the conspiracy theories began almost before the attacks had even finished. And those conspiracy theories have stayed with us to this day. Some of those theories suggest that the U.S. was involved in the attack, that the U.S. could have intervened and stopped the attacks, but decided not to. And some conspiracy theorists go even further, and they argue that the U.S. actually orchestrated the attacks itself. Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president as a Republican and by some polls is either in second or third place, he even questioned whether the U.S. had involvement in 9/11. He questioned whether the government officials have told us the entire truth about what happened during 9/11. And he's been under attack by his fellow Republican candidates, particularly Mike Pence, who had a very swift and very harsh response to Vivek Ramaswamy when he gave an interview suggesting that there's some big mystery or conspiracy with 9/11 that is yet to be revealed. Well, in hour two, we're going to talk all about 9/11, have two experts on, including an author of Escaping the Rabbit Hole, How to Debunk Conspiracy Theories Using Facts, Logic, and Respect. These two experts are going to join me and help us understand why, to this day, 22 years later, conspiracy theories are so pervasive as it relates to 9/11 and so many other tragedies that have befallen the U.S. And as the book says, hopefully the author Mick West is going to help us learn how to debunk these theories using facts, logic, and respect. Can't wait to have both of these gentlemen, Stephen Andrews and Mick West, join me in hour two. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. And I will tell people, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the sound bites. And don't allow yourself to start repeating the little sound bites you may pick up in the on your social media feed, or you may pick up as you're channel surfing the cable news stations. Yesterday, I had this experience. I was at a party, 12 super educated women, and most of them very politically engaged. And of course, the topic of politics came up. Who was running for president? Who was likely to win? And what some of the issues are that's driving folks to either be engaged or disengaged at this point. And I was shocked during this fun party event that one of the women, who happens to be a lawyer, insisted that Joe Biden was going to lose the 2024 presidential election. And she went on to talk about these polls that have Biden and Trump neck to neck, and again, repeating many of the talking points that you hear on Fox News, many that you hear on social media. And this lawyer happens to be a Democrat. I was trying not to make the whole conversation about politics. After all, this was a end of summer party. We were having fun. We were in a swimming pool. We were eating. We were having a great time. But I couldn't resist trying to convince my new friend that a lot of what she was saying was simply talking points that are pushed not by other Democrats, but by Republicans and by those whose sole purpose and mission is to suppress the Democratic vote. And I gave her the example of Donald Trump's latest lie, his latest lie. I don't know if it's his latest because he tells so many on a regular, but one of his latest is that Black voters are trending in his direction after he was indicted in Georgia and after he, put his mugshot out over the internet. He says that Black voters can relate to him because he's now an accused felon, and that makes him more relatable to Black folks. Now, that statement in and of itself is so offensive and racist on so many different levels. And we could spend hours just talking about the insidious nature of that statement. The fact that this white guy would suggest that Black voters like him more because he now is, quote, one of us meaning someone who's been indicted 4 times, that has a mugshot, that is facing, years and years of incarceration, that makes him a more likable and relatable candidate to Black folks. Again, so offensive, so racist, and so not true. No evidence whatsoever that anybody Black is sitting around saying, now I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because he is a crook and indicted and is likely to be a convicted and incarcerated felon. Black folks are way smarter than that. So again, for Donald Trump to even suggest that, and for people to now start parroting that Black folks are supporting Donald Trump because he's been indicted on RICO charges, that's one of those talking points that people pick up and start repeating. So what I also told my friend, and this is borne out by a New York Times article today, that the popular vote that these polls are tracking is of no consequence because we don't pick our president in this country by popular vote. The Electoral College picks our president. And to be the president of the United States, there are 7 or 8 key battleground states that you must win. They will determine who the president is. And the good news is Trump's Electoral College edge if he ever had an edge, is fading. And it's fading for 2 primary reasons: big issues on the ballot, like abortion, crime, and democracy. And in these battleground states, overwhelmingly, the voters are white. And Joe Biden, contrary to what a lot of the talking points say, has an advantage with the white voters in these battleground states. Now, clearly, we are a year plus away from the election. We don't even know if Trump is going to be the candidate that goes against Biden. But the point is, don't believe the hype. Don't repeat the talking points. Go behind the headlines, get the facts, analyze the facts, and make sure you're not suppressing Democratic votes because you are repeating the Republicans' talking points. When we come forward, more of today's trending news with my expert contributors right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The 3 people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. And KBLA KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations.
We are back, and this is Areva Martin in real time. And in this hour, we are tracking today's trending and breaking news with my expert contributors, Chris Scott and Sharon Reed. And in hour two, we are commemorating 9/11 and talking about how these horrific conspiracy theories about the cause of 9/11 got started and what we can do to push back on those theories. So make sure you stick around for hour two. All right, Sharon, I want to ask you about Donald Trump. Friday night, he is at a rally in South Dakota, and now his new lie is that Joe Biden ordered his indictment on 91 charges across these 4 different criminal cases that he is facing. And he's telling his audience that we need to, quote unquote, fight like hell because these charges aren't just against him. He's essentially telling his thousands and millions of supporters that these charges somehow are against them and that they have a personal stake in this. Now, when you juxtapose that versus watching the Proud Boy leaders get those really stiff prison sentences, last week, do you think Trump supporters are weighing what happened to the Proud Boys, saying, maybe this isn't really about me and this is about him because those guys storm the Capitol, they're going to jail. Donald Trump is still roaming the earth and the country freely. So do you think people are making that comparison?
I think in part, Areva, the answer to your question is intertwined with the number of willful ostriches that are still roaming free in America. I really do. Because at this point, all the evidence is there. We know what happened before. We know who was behind it. And I think there are people who just prefer, like the flightless birds, to have cognitive bias and avoidance. And this is just what they wish to do. If you want to believe nonsense and gibberish, then you will. And we'll see what happens and who gets energized. Because the other thing is, some people need a dramatic storyline. Some people need the New York Post headline, and instead of perhaps a deeper dive and a researched read to keep them engaged. They like the drama. So I think we'll just have to wait and see if after all of these years, the one-trick ponyism still works for him, if it's still lightning for him with some people. Other than that, I don't know, but it's a case study.
Yes, Scott, I read what some of those Proud Boy leaders said as they were getting those very harsh sentences. And one of them, I think he got 17 years ago, said he regrets that he believed the lie, that he put everything he had on a line for someone who is not even there, i.e. not there in the courtroom with him facing a penalty, and that he was never going to get involved in politics again. I mean, he felt really let down. He felt betrayed. He felt like he was duped, Chris, and suggested I saw that as him trying to signal to others, don't fall for this big lie because it can get you where I am, i.e. in prison, having lost everything, while the person that's lying to you is still, free.
Yeah, well, I think in the ideal world, some of the people that have been listening to Donald Trump's echo chamber would, start to actually wake up and smell the roses. But I think still in Trump's America, at least within the Republican Party, a lot of folks still just want to be willfully ignorant. They don't want to believe. They love essentially drinking the Kool-Aid some more to say, this is a witch hunt. Why are they coming after Donald Trump? And yeah, they might have, sentenced some of the Proud Boy leaders, but we also think that's unjust. I think those are the actual scary times that we're still in. And so I think there's still millions of America that just refuse to wake up and see what Donald Trump really is.
Yeah, and I guess when you have leaders in the Republican Party like Kevin McCarthy doing the bidding for Donald Trump, it's hard for some of those folks to divorce themselves from their, as you said, willful ignorance. What do you make of this, Sharon? McCarthy seems to say we are getting a lot closer to having everything we need to launch an impeachment of Joe Biden. It seemed early on that Kevin McCarthy was hesitant, that he thought this was not a good idea, that there would be a tremendous blowback to the party, and he was resisting it. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she would shut the government down if the impeachment didn't start immediately. But it seems like Kevin McCarthy is warming up to the ideal, and within days, perhaps, if not weeks, we could have a full-on impeachment hearing taking place in the House.
Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I think he just puts that finger to the wind and says, okay, that's what a lack of integrity does for one. But I also think we have to look at who's predisposed to this. You don't have a Donald Trump. You don't have a Marjorie Taylor Greene with such a low baseline. Unless people are hungry to belong to something, unless people have a certain level, not everybody, but a certain level of insecurity. I really believe that allows them to join this hunt. And that explains everything. Why they didn't get this job, why they can't qualify perhaps for this or that, or why they just had bad luck. If we could just explain it away with this faux movement, the world is better for them. They feel better about themselves. I honestly believe that is a part of it. It's just that this is the face of it for now.
Yeah, Chris, you talk to a lot of voters. You're on the ground. What impact might an impeachment inquiry, full-blown hearings every day, maybe over 2 months, or maybe over the entire fall, what impact will that have on Democratic voters and on Republican voters?
Well, I think the easiest, or at least starting on the other side, you would hope it kind of disheartens a little bit of that enthusiasm on the Republican side. Again, get some folks to wake up. I think the interesting thing is, do we see Donald Trump actually get kicked off the ballot in some of these states, like Colorado and some of the other states that are looking at disqualifying him for matters of treason? And so I think that's one interesting note. Now, on the Democratic side, I don't think the indictment, I think what we have to look at is if he gets sentenced, do you see Democratic base voters kind of take things for granted and assume that Joe Biden should have it in the bag? What we know, unfortunately, is Democrats do have a pattern of when it looks too good, kind of taking it for granted. I mean, look at 2016. For so long, everybody thought Hillary was going to run away with it until she wasn't anymore. And so I think Democrats still have to be vigilant to still turn out their base, no matter what ends up happening with Donald Trump.
Everybody here keeps talking about 2016 and Democrats getting too relaxed. And, my friend at the party that I referenced at the top of the show also talked about the Democrats' poor messaging and how horrible we are at messaging. But I reminded her, we killed it in the midterms. We've been killing it with a lot of these special elections that have been happening in states. So, do we really have a messaging problem? Or again, is that one of those talking points that Democrats repeat because they've heard it said over and over again? Because you couldn't win some of these elections in these tough states like Kansas and Wisconsin if, we were all that horrible.
I mean, when we're looking at it, I do think Democrats still overall have a messaging problem in that we are late into leaning into the messaging that we need to lean into earlier. While we did very good in the midterms, you still got to remember the Dobbs decision was really a gift if you look at what was going on at that time and kind of the enthusiasm gap that existed among Democratic voters compared to Republicans. So again, I think it is, if we lean into that message early, if we talk about the things that even what the administration hasn't been able to get past but has fighting for, I think that resonates more with voters, but you just cannot leave it up for chance.
Yeah, Sharon, one of the big issues is what the message should be around Donald Trump and his indictments. You're hearing more and more Democrats come out to say they want to see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris going hard on Donald Trump and his indictment and not having this kind of gloves, hands-off approach. Now, other Democrats would say it's premature. Donald Trump is not the candidate for the Republicans yet. And until there is an actual candidate, that Joe Biden should remain silent. And they also reference the possibility that others will think that Biden is somehow complicit in having these indictments issued, or that he is, pulling the strings behind the scenes with these criminal indictments. When we come forward, I'm going to talk about with both of you, what do you think the president and vice president should be saying, if anything, about Donald Trump's criminal issues? And did Gavin Newsom pull the wool over Black voters' eyes when he said he was going to appoint a Black woman? And is he stepping back from that as it relates to any replacement to U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein? When we come forward, KBLA Talk 1580.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your ear.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
Tell me you're the boy that girl.
gifted and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation in scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Favoritism, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come...
I'm back, and this is Areva Martin in real time. I'm your host, Areva Martin. And in this hour, we are tracking today's trending and breaking news with my expert contributors, Chris Scott. He's the co-founder and president of Advance the Electric PAC, and Sharon Reed. She's a TV host and commentator. And in hour two, we are talking about 9/11. We're going to have some experts on that are going to help us understand why there are so many and so many pervasive conspiracy theories about what happened on 9/11. And one of the guests is going to help us learn how we can debunk these theories using both facts and logic. So make sure you stick around for hour two. Sharon, I want to ask you about some Democrats, prominent Democrats, I should say, are starting to ask the question and raise the issue about how come Biden and Harris aren't hitting Trump on these criminal indictments. Now, others have said, look, Trump's not the candidate yet. He hasn't been elected by the Republican Party. So why should I, go after someone that's not the candidate? Also, there's the issue of trying to maintain a separation between the White House and any of these criminal indictments, which we know Biden has nothing to do with, but there's fear that if he starts talking about them, that will feed into this false narrative that Trump is giving, like he gave Friday night, saying that Biden ordered these indictments. But what's your take on what, if anything, Biden and Harris should be saying about Trump's legal problems?
They're doing it wrong, 100% wrong, okay? We're living in a crazy world, as Charles Blow eloquently pointed out in a recent column. Okay, the silence is ridiculous. And he can be silent. And what is the narrative? They still believe that he's meddled and this is a witch hunt. Okay. They still believe that. And you mentioned the midterms before the break. And yes, those were great wins. But what did it take to get there? Your body's not your own. There's no affirmative action. And only then do we start coming up with lawsuits to take away legacy admissions. I mean, wouldn't that be obvious? You can't lead on your heels. You have to be on your toes. And he's not yet the Republican nominee. He's a former president who turned on America. Joe Biden is running on I can save democracy. Yet he's not saying anything about all of these. There's the legal crimes that are proven, and then there's what we've already heard from his own lips, and not just the recording, phone calls and the like. He's pretty much acknowledged all of it. He just says, I had the right to do it.
Right. Sharon, the thing that bothers me, and I think I agree with you, I think there's a way that the administration should be talking about these legal issues, because this is unprecedented to have someone run for office and have the standards for the presidency be so lowered that you can literally be indicted with 91 charges, criminal charges against you, and still be the leading person in your party. So I think that's one thing that the Harris and Biden-Harris administration can call out, whether he's the winner of the primary or not. But what about the rape? What about a federal judge, determining that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll? The layperson's definition of rape was proven in her first trial, collateral estoppel in her second trial, meaning she doesn't have to put on any facts about what happened in the first case, that he raped her and defamed her. Is all about money damages. I think that's also a missed opportunity. We have a man that's running for president again, indicted 4 times, impeached twice, and a federal judge has said that for all practical purposes, a verdict by a jury of his peers in New York deemed him a rapist.
I think that this is the new normal, and it's crazy making. We love Michelle Obama. When they go low, you go high. The problem,
I think Michelle wouldn't say that today.
Not today. Because the problem here with Donald Trump is he's not going to stop. This is an evil mission, a fight to the finish. He's never going to quit this. And you can't just ignore it away. Sometimes you have to walk through the front door. You have to punch a bully in the mouth. All that sounds like cliches. And I draw on my experience in local news, where sometimes I would just turn to my colleagues and say, well, we got to put up a warning. We have to put up a warning that says, hey, this may, hurt you. You may not want your children to see it. Sometimes I would say, can we just tell people the truth? Forget the strategy. Just be honest. This is not an honest campaign if you're ignoring the elephant in the room. You're as dishonest in some ways as the other side. Who can we turn to for reliance?
The complicity. And I saw this the other day. I don't know if both of you saw this or one of you, but Chris, let me ask you, I was watching a local cable station, and you all saw the letter that Fonnie Willis wrote back to Jim Jordan, checking him and giving him an education on the Constitution and the limits of his authority and how he had no authority to interfere in a state prosecution, and telling him, if you want to do something, why not help find these racist terrorists who are threatening me, my staff, and my family. And there was a commentator on who was commenting, a legal commentator, about the letter. And she said the letter was legally accurate. And she agreed legally with Fonnie's points about the separation between the power of Congress and the power of a local prosecutor. But she then went on to say, but I just wish she hadn't used the sarcasm and that she hadn't stooped to his level. I wish she had just stuck to the facts. And, she was really criticizing. I was outraged. I was, wanted to reach through the television and choke her. And I did go on Twitter and tweet about it, because that's and Lawrence O'Donnell, it was his show. He pushed back. He was like, no, this is the most poetic, the best written, he didn't call it a clapback, but that's what he was saying, letter he had seen. And it is this notion that as Democrats, bullies can dump on us, punch us in the face, Sharon. And then Fonnie, after being called everything but a child of God, is supposed to write him a sterile, recitation of the facts without responding to the attacks on her. Chris, what's up with Democrats in this, passive, almost complicit conduct that we are expected to adhere to.
Well, I mean, it's this fake pristineness that we've just had in modern times. I mean, when they go low, we need to start meeting them in the middle. Otherwise, we're going to...
No, we need to go low with them.
Exactly. And so, you asked before the break about a messaging problem. That is part of the problem. We, again, are too hesitant to lean into messaging. Now, I get what some advisors would say, and, it opens him up for attacks. But like Sharon just said, they're going to attack you anyway and say that this is one-sided and that this is politically motivated. But you have a chance to make the case to the American people and say, look, even with all these limitations, this is what our administration has done. But let's talk about the reality that we still have this battle for the soul of our nation and what's at stake if we let a man accused of treason possibly take office. There is no shame in doing that. And so we need to start taking charge. I hope we see a more aggressive Joe Biden and VP Harris on the trail, but we definitely are missing an opportunity not taking this swing at all at this time.
And Sharon, if they've decided that it's not time for the president and vice president, we sure need some more vocal surrogates out now, not waiting until next year. And even Hunter Biden, I think we get ahead of that. I mean, whatever Hunter Biden's problems are, if he gets indicted, when people hear what this indictment is, and I've been telling people, the indictment is lying about on an application to buy a gun while the guy is coked out of his brains. He keeps the gun for 11 days. It's never loaded and he never fires it. Okay, if we're going to start indicting people for that, we won't have enough jails for people that commit those kind of low-level, nonviolent offenses. And I think the White House and the Democrats, we should just put it out on the table. Now, if you think that my son who did this, maybe he did do it, that disqualifies me or makes me comparable to the guy that has 91 criminal charges against him. So you're talking about my son. So we're not even apples to apples here. We're apples to coconuts or apples to watermelons or something so completely different. Yeah. So I just think we're missing that opportunity too. The Hunter Biden potential prosecution doesn't scare me because I think when people hear about it and think about their own family members and friends who've done something equally stupid while being addicted, people will not see that as in any way comparable to what Donald Trump has done. When we come forward, I want to continue that conversation about the Democrats and messaging. And then we'll talk about Gavin Newsom and this recent statement he's made about who he might appoint if Dianne Feinstein retires from her Senate seat early. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Gifted and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest spot. Shot with a rest spot. Shot with a rest spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Lift off the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon.
Senator Dianne Feinstein from California, who is the oldest legislator in the Senate, I think she's 90 years old, said she is going to retire when her seat, her U.S. Senate seat, comes up for re-election next year in 2024. Gavin Newsom, who had said earlier, if Dianne Feinstein resigned before her seat was vacant, he would appoint an African-American woman. Now, this all happened after Kamala Harris, senator from California, became the vice president. He appointed a Latino man, Alex Padilla, to be senator. And Black women in the state of California, quite frankly, went ballistic because they felt like Kamala Harris, Black woman, should have been replaced with a Black woman. To smooth things over, Gavin Newsom comes out and says, okay, I didn't do it on this appointment, but if Dianne Feinstein, who's aging and who has health issues, if she resigns, I will appoint a Black woman. Everyone assumed that would be Congresswoman Barbara Lee. She's from up north where Gavin Newsom is from. She's been in the U.S. House of Representatives for decades. She has an incredible and impressive record. She's running for the seat now. And Gavin Newsom came out yesterday and said, not going to be Barbara Lee. I'm not going to appoint anyone that is running for the U.S. Senate seat from California because he says that would be unfair to the others who are running, Congressmember Adam Schiff and Congressmember Katie Porter. And again, Sharon, Black women we feel in a certain way about this because I think people had some expectation that Barbara Lee would be given the seat, and then as an incumbent, it would be easier for her to run. What are you thinking about this whole appointment and some of the comments that Gavin Newsom has made around this seat?
He's looking less polished to this Black woman. Okay, I think I see hairs out of place. The shine is off. He's working overtime, it appears, to keep from appointing a Black woman. So it's one thing for us to basically carry the electorate, to do all the heavy lifting, to have no real voice. There's no real voice there. The perspective of a Black woman, certainly not enough. And this is what he thinks about being fair to, frankly, white counterparts who are running. When is it going to get fair to the people who've done the heavy lifting? Black women. He should say it and he should do it.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, Chris. It feels like he's kind of backpedaling, and he knows that whoever gets the appointment, if it wasn't just a caretaker type appointment, that they would have an advantage in the race. They would have incumbency. And he knows the leading candidates right now for that seat, Adam Schiff and Katie Porter, depending on the poll, are neck and neck, or Adam may have a slight advantage. What are you making of this? I don't know. This is, again, it just feels like Black women are the most disrespected, group of people on the planet. And I don't know. I don't want to be too hard on Newsom because he didn't say he wouldn't. But surely when he made this promise a year ago, it felt a lot more wholesome. It felt a lot like a bigger commitment than it's feeling like as he makes this statement yesterday, or he made the new statement yesterday.
Well, I mean, how many times are we used to a Democrat coming out and giving the right soundbite immediately and then backtracking when it comes time to actually do it? I think it's no surprise. We also know that Governor Newsom has some possible presidential aspirations, so I'm sure he has that in the forefront of his mind for how he wants to play this. Regardless, you know, all respect to Senator Feinstein, she should have already given up that seat and allow Governor Newsom to make an appointment. Now, to say that you don't want to do it because you want to be respectful to everybody in the race, Barbara Lee has done a heck of a job over her tenure in Congress. And if there was anybody that you were going to put up, a Black woman that I think would be first to mind in the state of California, I would think it would be Barbara Lee, regardless of whether or not she's running for that race. But, you know, again, it is the burden of Black women, I think, that comes to light once again in this country. And we're still sitting here without a Black woman in the U.S. Senate. Hopefully we get one potentially in Lisa Blunt Rochester, but by all means, we should definitely have another one in California.
Yes, it's fairly disingenuous because at the time we were responding to his appointment of Alex Padilla, a Latino man. So he said, "Oh no, don't worry. If Feinstein retires early, and everyone expected that she might because of her illness issues, you'll get that Black woman." And it wasn't, "I'm going to appoint a Black woman caretaker who then couldn't, have the seat." So now it's, oh my God, I don't want to disadvantage Adam. I don't want to disadvantage Katie. And obviously Barbara Lee has not been able to raise the kind of money and run, the same kind of races Adam and Katie are running. So we're not going to get, Alex Padilla got incumbency. He got appointed and was able to win. He didn't get to, his appointment wasn't a caretaker appointment. So he could have done the same with Alex. He could say, "Okay, Alex, you take the seat, but it's only if you agree not to run, because then I want to make it fair, right, for everybody else that wants to run." Now, all of a sudden, it's the Black woman's turn, quote unquote, to get appointed, and it has to be with all these conditions. Yeah. And this is the same governor that did not endorse, let me just put this little point on it, Karen Bass, when she ran for mayor and kicked butt of, with her opponent, Rick Caruso. And his excuse then was, "I've known both of them. And since I'm friends with both of them, I really don't want to select someone." And now he's saying with Dianne Feinstein, "Oh my God, she was my mentor when I was, in my mama's womb, and she signed a book that I had in grade school or something." I don't know, Sharon, and this is by all accounts, Governor Newsom, progressive, Democratic candidate that has done good things for, the state of California. But man, I just...
The more you talk, my blood pressure it's rising. Okay, I've got to bring it on down, because I'm going to tell you something. His comments, as you mentioned, it's real outrage. It's so offensive to say, "I don't want to disadvantage or be unfair to other Democrats who've worked their butts off." Okay, and you talked about Miss Lee, okay, and what she has done and what her working, living legacy is right now. It is, he's already kicked the can down the road. But I want to talk about something else. He's doing this without fear, because he can do it and we'll still be there for him, meaning Black women. That's the part that really, really upsets us.
It does. And we're always there, and we save a lot of these elections, and we save the party, and then we get this. The fairness argument. Again, we didn't get that with Alex Padilla, and nothing against Alex Padilla, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't like, let me make him a caretaker so we can open the field to everyone. We can't forget this. I know it feels like we as Black women just let this stuff go, but we don't. We're keeping score, and we're going to remember this because, as Chris said, somebody has higher aspirations. Real quickly, before we run out of time, are we about to have another war about masks? COVID is on the rise. I've had several friends tell me just over the last couple of weeks they have COVID. one family, all 5, mother, father, 3 kids. So COVID is back. Fortunately, it's not, the seriousness that we saw 2 years ago, but there are a lot of schools and a lot of businesses that want to go back to mandatory masking. And we have already seen, Chris, a backlash from Republicans. There's some small cities in California that have passed ordinances against masking, basically saying you cannot order masking in public places in our cities.
Yeah, the thought of another possible pandemic at this point is absolutely terrifying, especially having a kindergartner in my own household. I mean, it's just scary because we know what happened the first time. We know how much the anti-mask, the anti-vax movement has still sweltered and grown. And I think, just in general, people don't have another appetite to go through this again. But at the same time, you don't want to go through it again. It is not that much to go get the shot. Whether or not you believe in it or not, do us all a favor and, take the precaution in the first place. But hopefully it doesn't get as bad, but we'll see.
Yeah, what are you thinking, Sharon? We're seeing schools in New York and other parts of the country that want to do masking, but these loud parent groups are already rising up saying, hell no.
Yeah, but here come the ostriches again. And it wasn't that long ago that we didn't even have enough body bags or coffins. It really was not that long ago.
1 million people, we should know.
1 million people. And you want to sit up here and pass whatever you want. But is this your priority? There's a lot of other things you can pass, by the way. This is your priority. You want to fight for the right to contract something that can kill, and it's already killed 1 million people not that long ago.
Contract and spread it, which is even
really
more ridiculous. It's not like it just impacts you. It could impact others in your house, your community, your job. So we got to watch this. A new vaccine is coming out. Let's see what the CDC says tomorrow about who should be getting the new shots. And hopefully, we can get people vaccinated and save lives. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Sharon. Always a pleasure to have both of you join me. When we come forward, hour 2, we're going to talk about 9/11 and why folks refuse to believe the truth about 9/11. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you both. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks,
Take
Areva.
care. Have a good one.